What's up everybody, Long Live Your Turtle here, and today I want to answer a very common turtle owner question, and that is, can fish live with your pet turtle? Huge question. A lot of people want fish in their tank because they look really good, and if you can integrate them in with your turtles, you'll have a little community going on. Really cool setup, but can it be done? Turtles are omnivores, and by nature, they'll be very interested in any fish that you try to add to this tank, and they'll think it's a potential snack. So, is there a fish that can live harmoniously with your turtles? That's a fantastic question. From my experience, that depends on the turtle. Some turtle breeds can be pretty docile. Even your individual turtle can be a different temperament than the typical breed that you have. I have two red-eared sliders and a yellow belly slider, which are considered some of the most aggressive turtles when it comes to trying to integrate them with any other tank of fish or plants or whatever, because they just want to at least try every single thing that's in the tank. And if it's a nice plant or a juicy fish, then they'll gobble that thing right up. So the big question is, can fish live with your turtle? To figure it out, let's try it out. Let's put some fish in my tank and let's see how they fare against my 3 turtles. Yes, I know it's 3 turtles and it's a 75-gallon tank, so not a ton of space, but I do have some driftwood in the bottom, and this is really just showing what will these turtles do with these fish in this tank. So here's some potential fish you could add to your tank. Today I'm going to make 2 choices. First choice, we're going to go with the all-famous feeder fish, the rosy red minnow.
Minnow.
Alright, so I picked up 10 rosy red minnows from Petco. These were $2. So, awesome deal. And I'm going to be sure not to name these guys before I put them in the tank, because who knows what's going to happen. Let's check it out. Alright, so I actually had to acclimate these guys in a separate bucket with the turtle water in it, just because the turtles try to chomp at the bag. So we're really not in for a good start with these guys, but I fed the turtles, so they should be nice and full, and this is actually their bedtime, so another advantage for the fish. And they have a couple hiding spots and a little darker area over here, so really trying to give them their best hope of survival and to just successfully have these guys live with our turtle friends.
Round 1. Live.
Yikes. We're about 15 minutes in. We only have 2 survivors.
Turtles win.
Alas, I count 3 turtles, 0 minnows. They fought so hard. They lasted about 30 minutes. 2 were real troopers. But the turtles got them. A quick moment of silence. Alright, so we have new fish mates that we're going to try. I got 5 goldfish, various colors, very cool. These are comet goldfish. They're the larger ones that I could get at Petco, 36 cents a piece. Again, super cheap, but we're going to see how these guys fare with the turtles. Let's put them in, and let's see what happens. Hopefully we have new tank mates.
Goldie. turtles win.
Hard to watch, folks, hard to watch. Goldfish lasted maybe 15 minutes. And those were some big boys to go down. Rest in peace, all fish. However, there's one beacon of hope in this tank. There's one little rosy red minnow that survived this entire onslaught. And we're all rooting for him. But in the meantime, another quick moment of silence. And I dedicate this song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Now, I've never had any luck with minnows. However, I have had luck with some larger goldfish. You can actually see it in some of my older videos. I had two really big goldfish that lived really well with my turtles for like 2 years, and then there was a sudden massacre and they were both gone, and RIP those two great goldfish. That's why, again, don't name any sort of fish that you put in with your turtles. You could be sorely disappointed. So let's first talk about things to consider when trying to match a fish with your turtle's personality and living space. Let's then talk about certain options that you have. There's a lot of cool options out there, and I'll go over the rest of the fish that I think are possible great additions to your turtle tank. So the first thing to discuss is aggression. Most turtles will be very aggressive themselves, especially toward other tank inhabitants, and especially if your tank's rather small compared to your turtle size and enclosure. So red-eared sliders, the ones I have, are one of the most aggressive turtle pets, and they're just going to go after everything that's not a rock. They might even try a rock, honestly, and they're going to try to eat whatever you put in there. So in general, an aggressive fish is inherently going to do a lot better up against these turtles than a docile fish that swims slow, isn't really aware of its surroundings, and just kind of lives life in the slow lane. You want the fish in the fast lane that's aggressive, it's hyper aware, always swimming around, always keeping a good distance from the turtles, knowing that the turtles are aggressive themselves. And it's almost like a little competition between the two. However, don't take this as get some huge aggressive fish like a giant Oscar that's going to dominate your tank, because that could lead to exactly the opposite of what you want, which would be your turtle ends up getting injured and the fish reigns. You don't want that. You want your turtle, which was your original inhabitant, to be happy, and you're looking for a fish that's going to fit well with your turtle buddy. The next is size. Turtles are usually large inhabitants of your tank, so your fish size is going to matter. Whether it's really small and it can hide in the driftwood, it can hide in certain features that you have in your tank really easily, so it can stay out of harm's way from your turtles, or you're going to get a bigger fish that your turtles don't immediately assume is food, and will take a much less aggressive approach, just going for that fish full speed and just gobbling it up. So there's a little bit of a balance here, but don't take that advice as, okay, I'm just going to get the biggest fish I could possibly fit in this tank. From the wise Qui-Gon Jinn and his famous line, there's always a bigger fish. You don't want a huge fish that's just going to injure or eat your turtle, because that's totally the opposite point here. So take that sage wisdom of Mr. Qui-Gon Jinn and don't just get a giant fish. We're going to do some balancing here to get a great fish for your turtles. Another attribute that I think any fish in a turtle tank should have is speed. Unless your fish is huge and just kind of mopes about and the turtle's like, whoa man, I'm not going to even touch that thing. Your fish, if small in any way, is going to be food for your turtles unless they can escape, and always stay one flick of a fin ahead of your turtles' chompers. Another really important fish attribute you should be looking for is just overall strength of your fish. If it's nimble and fast, it doesn't need to be super strong, it just needs to be able to get into nooks and crannies and hide. But if your fish is big and really obvious to the turtles and not really hunt at all, it needs to be strong. So we'll get to an example, a couple of those fish in a minute, but you're basically looking for a fish that can either take a hit from a turtle, can bounce off, get beat up by the turtle, and also lumped into the strength is a fish's ability to kind of deal with not so awesome water quality. You have turtles, you know they're really poopy, and you're not always going to have the most awesome water that a normal fish tank might have. You know it's true. So get a fish that can handle fluctuations in your water quality and won't just croak and then your turtle eat. That's too easy for your turtles. Don't give them such an easy treat. Last thing, especially if you've never tried to put a fish in with your turtles and you have no idea how they're going to react, is don't get a really expensive fish. Just like naming your fish, don't do that. Don't get a really expensive fish, because odds are, especially if you have no idea, it's going to get eaten. So that's why I went with my Minnows and Goldfish. They're both considered actually feeder fish, so they're 10 to 20 cents a piece. And so it wasn't a huge loss that those guys were just gobbled up. And it's sad, but I didn't lose $50 worth of fish. I just lost a couple dollars. So keep that in mind, especially if you're trying out your first fish with your turtles. Don't go above and beyond to get something really fancy. So now you have the stats we're looking for on these certain fish that are going to live with your turtles. Let's take a look at some awesome possibilities of fish that you could add to your tank with your turtles that may or may not have a fighting chance, but I think they're really good ones to try out. So let's start with the first fish that I put in with the turtles. It didn't turn out well, but I still think the minnow is a really good fish to try out with your turtles. It has some pretty good attributes that make it a decent partner for your turtle. They're pretty small, so they can hide under anything you have on the bottom of your tank. Their aggression's not much, but it's enough to make them very aware and kind of fight for their right. Their speed is pretty decent. They can get around the tank really quick, and as long as they're being aware of the turtles around them, they're going to be able to outrun them as long as they see them coming. Strength-wise, not so great, but they are very good at handling bad water conditions and low oxygen levels, so they're great for a turtle tank that those kind of conditions can come up. And I think the most important thing here for these minnows is they're ridiculously cheap. They're feeder fish, so they're about 15 cents a piece. So if you lose one, it's not a big hit to the wallet, and that's that for the minnow. The next fish is the second fish I put in the tank. Also didn't have a good time against my turtles, but I still think these guys are really good for trying out with your turtles, is the goldfish. The goldfish, quite an aggressive fish. They come from the carp family, which means they can get pretty big, so I give them a small, medium size. They're not quite as big as a koi, but their aggression, they're very aware, and they'll fight for their food, and they'll keep a good eye on tanks. I had these fish for a little while, and they were really good at avoiding the turtles. Speed, also pretty decent. As long as they see the turtles coming, they can get out of the way. Strength, these guys are really robust, and so their strength is 3 stars. They can handle really bad water conditions. Again, these are carp. They're really good at just living. So they are pretty big too, and they can take a hit. Turtles might try a couple bites, and they'll survive that. But they aren't huge, so they will get eaten if they don't avoid the turtles enough. And lastly, just like the rosy red minnows, these guys are feeder fish, so they're super cheap, 36 cents I think a piece, typically at a pet store, and you can usually get them at Petco or PetSmart. And yeah, just really cheap, so not a huge financial loss if your turtles decide these guys are just snacks and not tank mates. The next fish I think would go pretty well in your turtle tank, to at least try out, are guppies. These are very small fish. They can easily hide under any sort of logs or features you have on the bottom of your tank. Just make sure you have those features. Aggression-wise, really low. They're pretty aware of their surroundings, but they're not going to put up a fight or be very good at taking a hit or anything. Speed, pretty decent. Give them 3 stars for that. They're quick fish, so as long as they see those turtles coming, they should be able to get out of the way. Strength, not much. They're not quite as robust with water changes, and they're not quite as robust with water quality issues or taking hits from turtles. They're going to be eaten once wipe. Lastly, their cost is not as good as a goldfish or rosy red minnow. However, these guys look really good. They usually run around $2. Sometimes you can get good deals, but they're not going to be cents. So you're really paying for the looks here. And they're small, so hopefully they'll make it through the turtle onslaught. So the next fish I suggest is the Plecosmus, also known as the suckerfish. This is a very common fish for people that want to clean up algae in their tank, so they're awesome for that. They can get to medium large, which is a good feature for a turtle. When they're bigger fish, they're going to be less interested in just saying, hey, this guy's a snack, I'm going to eat him. So aggression, these fish are quite aggressive, especially with smaller fish in the tank. It's going to be with a turtle, so aggression is a little bit different there. They're not going to try to beat up a turtle, but they are very aware and they're very quick when they need to be. However, the next line is speed. I only give them 1 star for that because what they do is they suck on the tank, and one of their defense mechanisms is just hiding and just staying still. This is a tank, it's a big fish, so the turtles are going to see it and they're going to be like, what is this? I'm going to try it. And the suckerfish might not move when the turtle goes for a bite, which is not great because then it's going to take a hit and it needs to learn basically that the turtle is going to try to bite it once in a while and it needs to be on the move. But with that strength really high, these guys can take kind of crappy water conditions, and also they're quite armored. Their actual skin itself is very tough, so they can definitely take some hits from the turtles, especially if they're a lot bigger. However, not totally 5 stars, just because there are some soft spots on these guys and they might not move, so they'll get big hits. Lastly, cost. They're not super cheap, but also not really expensive. They're pretty common fish, so they're around $5 to $10. Could be more money if they're really big, which could be worth it. Just be aware that your turtle might try to eat it, so that would be unfortunate. Next fish, really cool fish. It's the koi, another offshoot of the carp, similar to the goldfish, but changed a lot since the carp itself that it branched off from. These guys get humongous, large to very large is what I'd rate them, and I give these guys 4 stars for aggression. They go for their food. They're not very afraid of other things around them. They will put their body into it, and they can definitely hold their own when it comes to keeping themselves safe in the tank. Speed-wise, they're pretty big, so they're not super fast, but again, they're big fish, so they can still get some distance with a couple of flips of the fins. Strength, 5 stars. These guys are huge. They can take some hits. They're thick fish, and I think they could take a good dealing from a turtle. And again, this is from the carp family, so they can definitely handle some bad water quality and issues that a turtle tank might typically have over just a nice tropical fish tank. And I guess I would say one of the low points for this fish is the cost. Koi, especially at a size that would be adequate for a turtle, are very expensive. Ranging from $10 to $50 to $100, so you're going to have to pay for it. But if you do have space for a koi in, I would say, a pond or a really big tank, like 300 gallons, because these guys are going to get really big, I would say go for it, because they're going to do really well with a turtle companion. My last suggestion might come as a surprise, and the ratings might surprise you, but it's the convict cichlid. Cichlids are really cool fish that inherently are aggressive. Just like most of the family of cichlids, these fish will hold their own. They're going to find a part of the tank and they're going to make it their space. And if someone's trying to beat on them or eat them, they might actually fight back a little bit. And for turtles, that'll show them, hey, I need to back off. These guys might come back at me, and I don't want that. I don't think any turtle or fish would want that. So, awesome companion for the turtles. They need someone to show them who's boss once in a while, or at least who to stay away from. and I think these convict fish are really good for that. So aggression, 5 stars. Speed, these guys are really quick. They're very aware because of their aggression, and they're always going to stay one step ahead of your turtles unless they get cornered. Strength, really strong. They can take some kind of bad water conditions. They're kind of a beginner cichlid fish, so they're really good at that. And they can take some hits because they're aggressive fish, and so they can take some aggression towards them as well. So strength, 5 stars. Cost, 5 stars again. These guys, they're pretty small and they're pretty expensive, and you got to get a couple of them. So it's not going to be just getting one of these guys and you're good. You're going to need to get quite a few, so the price is going to increase really quick. Big thing to keep in mind here as a warning is if you have a breeding pair, they're going to get really aggressive to protect their babies. So watch out for your turtle's sake that they're not injuring your turtle, because your cichlids are having babies and they're saying, hey, get away from my tank. So just keep an eye out if you do have a breeding pair that they're not beating your turtles to a pulp, even though they're tiny. They're really aggressive and really cool fish. Alright folks, so the fish I tried out today did not make the cut. We lost them all. We're 0 for 15. It's a sad story, but it's a learning story. And like I showed you, there are quite a few other fish I could try with these turtles. And you could even change your tank up a little bit to give a couple more hiding spots and make it a little easier for a smaller fish to survive the absolute onslaught of your turtles. So with that, I would say this is the first part of a series I actually want to put together. I would call this episode 1 because I want to try more fish and see if I can find the perfect balance that can survive with the absolute onslaught of the red ear sliders and the yellow belly. Thanks for watching. This is Long Live Your Turtle. See ya!